Okay. As I mentioned in the stream announcement, I'm going to be out tomorrow. So I wanted to finish up the last couple slides on 10.2. We can finish up those notes. And we're going to start with a little video here, actually. Let me get this going here. This is on the Harlem Hellfighters and the Red Summer that occurs when the African American servicemen return home. So about a 4-minute video here. Take some time, watch this here real quick. So anyways, we talked about the Great Migration. I guess that video got cut off there, but we spoke to it a little bit on Friday. What the cause and effect, we talked about the push and the pull, but the effect of the Great Migration, it has a lot of different aspects to it, right? A lot of different layers. In this particular situation, we're going to speak to the racial tension and violence that occurred. As the video mentioned, the competition for homes, the competition, well, housing, I should say, not necessarily homes, but housing, competition for jobs, many strikes going on. The owners would hire black workers to replace the strikers because they knew these individuals coming from the southern area didn't have jobs, so they would be willing to work as strike breakers, which caused friction between the white controlled labor unions and the African Americans who just recently came in. You throw in an influx of immigration that we spoke to a little bit earlier as well, and you have just a kind of power keg, as the video points out, of potential violence, potential racial tension. The changes are really specific to the northern industrial cities. And they intensified as the competition for jobs, competition for places to live, and just the overall mixture of cultures that aren't used to being around each other that much leads to, animosity, violence, things of that sort. The Red Summer was an example of 1919. So the war ends in 1918. And the following summer, it ends in November of 1918. The following summer, you have the after effects of the migrational patterns of African Americans, immigrants, returning soldiers. So there's just a lot of competition that are going on. The one in Chicago was probably the most famous, as I mentioned in the video, where there was a young African American boy, wasn't really a boy, he's more of a teenager, that his raft, as I said, kind of drifted into the white area of the beach. And this is Chicago. Even though it's north, there was still segregation going on. Jim Crow laws were not just a Southern thing. Some cities are a little more liberal than others, but Chicago had a very high immigrant population, so there was a lot of different cultures getting mixed up together. Anyways, when it was all said and done, 38 people were killed in Chicago, over 500 were injured. There was an influx of fires, an influx of police brutality, things of that sort, that really made Chicago a hotbed for racial tension. That just gives you a real quick synopsis of not only the Great Migration. We talk about in sections 2 and 3, they talk about the Harlem Renaissance, and some of the other aspects of African American culture. But there's also obviously the side effects, which involve racism, things that maybe sometimes are typically identified as Southern things. It happened in northern cities as well. So anyways, at this point now, you got your you got your lecture outlines all finished up. You have the DBQs, which are on Thursday. There's a test, and I'm sorry, there's a quiz on Thursday, with the retake on Friday on just chapter 10. So we've covered section 1. We've just finished section 2. We're going to do section 3 on Wednesday with a short lecture, and then we'll get into the quiz on Thursday. So that gives you an idea. Also, there's some chapter 11 stuff that's posted. If you wanted to work ahead, you can do that as well. I'll be back on Wednesday.